piano music. And look on. Now this is my granddad's chair in Granny and Grandad's house in Jarrow. This high-backed, beaten up, hand-me-down from God knows where armchair. And when he was alive, I definitely would never sit down in it. I had a place, and that was by his side. Now, Granny never seemed to have any time to come and sit with us. She always had so much to do. Washing, cooking, cleaning, ironing, polishing, sorting, and more besides. So, it was me and Granda staring into the fire, watching the flames, and sometimes, no, I mean all of the time, I really wanted to know more about Granda's life. As far as I know, he was a good man. I know that he was very good to me. I was always asking, but he'd never tell about the things he'd seen if he'd been through hell. He was always just grand and me, with his flat cap and suit by the silvery sea. He plunged in the water right up to his knees. He'd go far enough but never too far, just like his stories about the war. He was always just grand and me. As far as I know, he was a good man. I know that he was very good to me. I was always asking, but he'd never say about the friends he'd made and lost along the way. Said he'd tell me another day. As far as I know, he was a good man. I know that he was very good to me. I was always asking, but he'd never tell about the things he'd seen if he'd been through hell. He was always just grand and near, and never a tear in the corner of his eye. He would drown in his times gone by. I truly know he was a good man. I know that he was very good to me. I was always asking, but he never said about the things he'd done and the life he'd led. He was always just grander to me. My granda, James Robert Henderson, was born on the 14th of March 1889 and he died on the 18th of August 1972, and there you have it. They are the bald facts. But what do they hide? What do we know about them? What do they tell us? Apart from a very few photographs, some family stories, some half-remembered, half-forgotten incidents, what is left? A few weeks after his birth, on the 31st of March 1889, the Eiffel Tower was unveiled as part of the Paris exhibition. The tower at the time was the tallest man-made freestanding structure in the world, and it still is seen as a masterpiece of 19th century architecture. But there were no fanfares for the birth of my grandfather. Oh no. His mother, Margaret Henderson, she was an unmarried mother. So he was illegitimate. The mark of Cain was on his forehead. And, well, I'll tell you this.
I'm here with a sandwich. Yay. Sorry about your wait.
Okay.
Okay, enjoy.
His his father, I'm definitely going to put that in. His father was a pitman, and he died in a mining accident at Heaven Colliery just a few months before his birth. You see, my granda was born at a time when the stigma of being illegitimate was hard to overcome. In another time and in another place, he could have been anything that he wanted to be. He could have been another Leonardo da Vinci. He could have been any number of kings or popes. Being born out of wedlock never seemed to hold them back. But at this time and in this place, his mother had to work to live, and she couldn't work and keep her son. She was getting very little help from her own family, and so when he was aged 10, she was forced to give him up to Green's Home for Boys. Green's Home for Boys was found on the corner of Mile End Road and Military Road, and it was not a school where he would be called a child or a pupil. No, he was registered as an inmate. And this was the kind of place that parents would use to threaten their children. If you're not good, if you don't behave, then we're going to send you to Green's. Now, I have a note that shows that my granda, aged 10, was placed on warrant for non-participation. Non-participation is defined as an inability to act in accordance with a wish or a command. Well, perhaps he answered them back or just got sick of them telling him every single day that he had no father. So his sin, his only sin, was to be a little boy who was speaking his mind. And this charge led to him being placed on board of the Wellesley industrial maritime ship, which was moored off the Little Street Quays in North Shields. It was initiated in 1868 by some philanthropists and some local businessmen who wanted to protect children who, through poverty, parental neglect, or by being orphans, would be in danger of coming within the grip of vice and crime. There were 300 boys on board of this ship, and my granda was allowed one visitor once a month after he'd been on board of the ship for 2 months, and providing that the visitors were not drunk. Now, I have got a photograph, a very rare photograph taken over 120 years ago, and it shows an unsmiling mother and her child. They're not even holding hands. But what you've got to remember is this: photographs were very expensive and they took a long time, so the sitters had to sit straight-faced. Now, I do not know if this is the shape of things to come or just a coincidence, but the little boy, my grandfather in that photograph, had to wear a borrowed sailor suit. And considering the life that he led on the sea, for me, I don't think it was a coincidence. So, his mother, my great-grandmother, gave him up for a life on board of the Wellesley. And life on board of the Wellesley was harsh. The discipline was swift, and the punishments were unchecked and brutal. The boys were expected at 4:30 in the summer and 5 o'clock in the winter to get up, washed, dressed and breakfasted and scrubbing the decks. Sometimes even before dawn had broken. Now, the role of the Wellesley was twofold. One, it was to take waifs from off the street, homeless boys from off the street, and secondly, to prepare them for a life in the Royal or the Merchant Navy. My granddad endured this for 3 years until he was 15. And in 1904, he was signed on board of a full-rigged sailing ship that was bound for the Black Sea from the Tyne. Incidentally, the Wellesley burnt down on the 11th of March 1914, and I cannot say for certain, but I can put my hand on my heart and say that my granda would not have shed one single tear at its demise. However, the Wellesley gave him so many skills that he used throughout the whole of his life. His prowess with rope and string and cord was a wonder to behold, and his dexterity at sewing and knitting and darning was just unbelievable to watch. And he was a strong swimmer, and it is said that one day he saved a man from drowning in the Tyne, and for this he was given a life-saving medal. And I would love to have said that this medal was in our family to this day, but it was pawned in the 1920s and 30s when money was in short supply. Seamless. I bob like a fish and I float like a cork. Swimming's better than working or toiling. Rivers, ocean, lakes or sea hold no fear for me. Just to roll me down to the depths of the deepest ocean. I'll tug at the tail of Neptune's daughter, and the tide will turn for me, and the tide will turn for me. Beneath the waves I'm my own man, no one tells me what to do, sir. Free to hear the witness cries, now the race is won. It's not what you earn, but the things that you can learn. I'll leave this prison ship behind. Someday me tide will turn. Someday me tide will turn. Now the tale gets told and the hero bold. Save the man who swam like a boulder. Me prize was a medal, clap on the back, double rations for me. No fame, no praise, no rest, and no more glory. I'm down on me knees, scrubbing at dawn. Someday me tide will turn. Someday me tide will turn. I bob like a fish and float like a cork. Swimming's better than working or toiling. Rivers, ocean, lakes or sea hold the faith of me. Go for roll me down to the depths of the deepest ocean. I'll leave this prison ship behind. Someday me tide will turn. Someday me tide will turn. You can clap if you want to.
So many nights at the stage we weren't sure.
Oh yeah. Oh no, not at all. Just I'll just put this over there, so I don't have to do that again. When he returned from his life on the sea, he must have had a lifetime of stories that I would have loved to heard, but he never spoke about them. He was a man now, and he decided that what he would do is he would work in the shipyards of the Tyne, and he'd use all of the skills that he had from on the Wellesley, and he would become a rigger. A rigger is the man who uses cords and ropes and pulleys and shifts and lifts all of the men and material on board or inside of the shipyards. It was like this. Work was hard to come by. And if you didn't have a job, then you didn't have money. If you didn't have money, then you couldn't buy food. If you couldn't buy food, then you starved. And of all of the stories that my granddad could tell me, he would tell me about the chaos at the shipyard gates every morning when the men, desperate for work, would shout and scream and yell for the foreman to choose them for a day or two's work, or maybe a good start in the shipyards. A rigger would get paid 8 old pennies for a full day's hard manual work. But if you were to give the foreman a bribe, then he might choose you. Nothing was for certain. This bribe would be placed inside of a matchbox, a penny, tuppence, or maybe even a threepenny bit. Nearly half a day's wages would be placed inside of the matchbox and slid along towards the foreman when he was out for a drink, usually in the Long Bar in Jarrow, and again he might choose you the next day. And it was here that my granddad met with Margaret Comiskey. Margaret Comiskey's father, Thomas Comiskey, was born in Clonbur in Galway, and he had travelled all of the way from Ireland to get a job at one of the most prestigious yards in the Tyne Palmer's Yard. He had married a Jarrow lass, Bridget Lydon, and she was married in 1865, and Thomas was born in Clonbur in 1866. But when my granny told the redoubtable Thomas Comiskey that my granddad was not a Catholic, he told his daughter in no uncertain terms, "Never bring that man in this house again." But reason prevailed, and my grandfather changed from being a primitive Methodist, and he embraced the Catholic faith, and the two of them were married at St. Bede's Church, Monkton Lane in Jarrow on the 21st of February 1914. But I can tell you, I and all of the priests never saw my granddad go to Mass once. With World War I looming, my granddad joined up with the East Yorks Regiment, and he became Private James Robert Henderson, serial number 16985. And these numbers were engraved on the side of his medals, and I can show them to you now. These medals, which were given to all of the men who joined up in 1914 and survived until 1918, these 3 medals here, well, there was over 2.5 million men who were issued with these 3 medals. The thing is, with that kind of serviceman's humour, they were nicknamed Pip, Squeak and Wilfred. And Pip, Squeak and Wilfred were 3 very famous cartoon characters that were printed in the Daily Mirror. It's not for being brave or the things that I did. I feel I want a coconut for not being dead. And all I've got to show for a bloody long war is Pip, Squeak and Wilfred. Pip, Squeak and Wilfred. Pip took me far across the sea, made a soldier boy of me. No one came where I came from, as we sang our soldiers' songs. Saw things no man should have seen. Now they've darkened I cannot tell. For king and country and for home, been down beneath a stranger's sun. Those brothers that I've left behind will live on inside my mind. It's not for being brave or the things that I did. I feel I want a coconut for not being dead. All I've got to show for a bloody long war is Pip, Squeak and Wilfred. Pip, Squeak and Wilfred. Wilfred wrote the truth for home. No sweet victory, no kingdom come. No heroed land, just broken man. A darkness trapped inside of them. I know I never could explain. Live forever with this pain. So why the hell am I still here? Through the dark, the cold, the fear. Why was I a chosen one to take the chance, return to home? With these medals I never can forget. To the fallen goes the dead. It's not for being brave or the things that I did. I feel I want a coconut for not being dead. And all I've got to show for a bloody long war is Pip, Squeak and Wilfred. Pip, Squeak and Wilfred. War was declared on the 4th of August 1914, and my granddad, in an article in the Shields Gazette in February of 1964 to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary, said, "I was there at the beginning of the war and I was there at the end of the war." Because among one of his medals is this, the 1914-15 Star, which was given to those people who signed up in 1914 and survived through to the 31st of December 1915. My granddad, he saw action in France and Italy and Salonika, and in fact he fought in Gallipoli from April to December of 1915. The conditions that the servicemen met in that place were horrendous. It was bad planning. They were pinned down on the shore while the enemy had the higher ground. Bad supplies and bad sanitation. And my grandfather, along with thousands of others, contracted dysentery. And he told me on more times than I really wanted to hear, and he took great delight in telling me, because he was shipped out all of the way to France by truck. I had to sit with me arse hanging out of the back of the truck with me trousers round me ankles. I've got to tell you, it's an image that I still find very difficult to take from out of my mind. But the thing is, he also developed frostbite. And at the end of the war, when he came back to England, he was treated at Stoke Mandeville Hospital in Buckinghamshire for several months before he could return to his home. I used to work on a sailing ship across the raging sea. By the time that I got back back, I was just in time for Gallipoli. I've seen the hardest of years of kind, you and your father missed. So I've come to ask you this: why don't you live your life? You'll find your life goes faster than you know. If I could choose a time to live, then here's a place I'd go. But I'm just history, a dying tree that's trying to make you see. You've got to make more of your life, or soon you'll be like me. And now that I'm losing my memory, some things take me back. Looking out on a wintry sea, or a road that's lost its track. And when I look back on this life of land, our tale it seems that a life I'm living on dream. Why don't you live your life? You'll find your life goes faster than you know. If I could choose a time to live, then here's a place I'd go. But I'm just history, a dying tree that's trying to make you see. You've got to make more of your life, or soon you'll be like me. I wish I could offer these words to you, you just ignore. No one listens to old man anymore. Why don't you live your life? You'll find your life goes faster than you know. If I could choose a time to live, then here's a place I'd go. But I'm just history, a dying tree that's trying to make you see. You've got to make more of your life, or soon you'll be like me. Oh well, you've got to make more of your life, or soon you'll be like me. When he recuperated, he came back to working in the shipyards of the time, and it was there that he got his nickname of Tot. He was known by his workmates as a strong man, as a tough man, but he was a short man, and all of his workmates would look on him and think that he was as small as a toddler, like a tot. But he always preferred to say his own name in full: James Robert Henderson. His mother died in 1937, and she was also known as Polly. And instantly she worked at Haggis Ropery in Wellington Quay, the same place that Granny Henderson worked. But let me tell you this: my granddad was a man of his times.
I just remember. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
There you
Lovely.
go.
Thanks
That's
a
it.
lot.
My granddad was a man of his times. This was the social order of things. He went to work to earn the money to put food on the table, a roof above his family's head, clothes on their backs, and that was it. Everyone else needed to know their own role within the family, and they had to know that his word was law. With the Second World War looming, his sons were called up and they were asked to fight in South Africa and in Borneo, and we do not know what he thought about this. His son's going off to war, because he never spoke about it. He continued to work in the shipyards through the 50s and the 60s, and when he retired, he got a part-time job making the Viking shopping centre, the Viking precinct, and later he worked in a bakery that was found on South Shields Simonside Industrial Estate. His wife, my grandma, died at home in 1969, and he followed not long after in 1972. But we know that before he passed, he got to hear of the birth of my sister Maureen's son Stephen before he left this world. And I'm sure that he would have been glad to know that his quiet legacy was being continued. It was 83. I can still remember some things, but not enough of the things that he used to say. I can hear his voice, dark and deep, saying his name. And I always want to know, I still want to know more. Now, it's too late. Seamless. spent a great deal of time at my grandparents' house, and little wonder they used to spoil me rotten with food and attention. My granddad would take the time to show me practical things, the kind of things that he'd learned with wood and string and rope and card on board of the Wellesley. And despite the fact that the pair of them would always be bickering, I felt safe in this place. I felt comfortable here. My granddad and me we never played cards or chess or games, nothing so frivolous. It was as if he wanted to show me things that would help me with my life, but to show them to me in as quiet a way as possible. This is a very rare event. This has stayed inside of my mind. This is a very rare event indeed. The three of us are going on a day trip, a mini holiday, all of the way to Ovington to go and see my Uncle Jimmy in his caravan. It is August of 1956. I am 9 years old and I'm at my grandparents' house. My granddad's boots are warmed by the side of the fire and they are flanked by grey, faceless sentries of socks. And I remember thinking at 9, we've even got poetic socks. The clock clicks, ticks and tocks as it guards the last warming moments of Grandad's grey socks.
Hey!
Odd crowd. Rosemary Clooney is on the radio. Hey Mambo, Mambo Italiano, hey Mambo. I am seriously watching my granddad as he smokes his pipe. And then, from out of nowhere, back straightens up, and with a sniper's accuracy, he smacks his lips and spat into the very heart of the fire. It seems that the sizzling saliva had cut through my granny's deafness, and she almost squeaked, "Hey man, what are you doing? Cut that out!" Me granddad, without even looking up, goes, "Hey man, how man, woman man, what's the matter with ye? It's only spit." Now when my grandparents fought like this, I would always look away. And I would catch the distorted reflection of the three of us in this passionless play in the mirror above the fireplace. Granny is busy getting ready in front of the fire, and she is being studiously ignored by my granddad. Now he's had a lot of practice of making sure she knows that he knows that she's being ignored. She has her usual black coat on, the one with the fur collar that looks as if she's wrapped a cat around her neck, and then, theatrically, she produces a large cardboard box and ostentatiously draws out the contents. It is a large, wide-brimmed, luminous pink hat. Grandad barely glances at her, but says, "Well, there's no chance he'll never not be seen. You'll never get knocked down with that on your head. I tell yous what, do you want us to go into the shed and go and get like a trowel so you can shovel more of that rouge on your face? You've got us choked." Still continuing to be getting herself ready, she whispered out of the side of her mouth, "I'll choke ye." Then it was her turn. She was going to ignore Grandad, and she had a lot of practice of making sure he knew that she knew that he was being ignored. As she continued to do the rest of her makeup on, she looked, and unwittingly I was drawn into the conversation, although she was really telling Granda about it. I tell you what, son, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the lights on, so if the burglars come round, they'll think we're in. Ever the realist. Granda says, but you've got the bloody curtains closed, woman. No bugger will be able to see that we're either in or we're out. I tell you what I'll do. I'll get a big lump of coal and stick it in the middle of the fire, so when the burglars come round, when they're doing the burglaring, they won't get cold. Well, Uncle Jimmy's caravan was an eternity away. It was in Ovenjum. I know, that's outside of Newcastle. It's a full 21 miles away. That meant a round trip of 42 miles in one day. This is a journey that is fit for Hercules, but we began our journey by staring at the door, just like we were paratroopers just about to jump out of a plane. But we knew exactly what was on the other side of the door. It was raining hard. And as we opened the door and stepped into the deluge, Granda began. Whoa, Jimmy's only been away 3 days. It's belted down every single day, non-stop. Cats and dogs, bloody stair rods, never bloody stopped, bloody hell. Grandma looked at me with more expectation than hope. I said, I'm sure our Jimmy will make sure that he'll appreciate us taking the effort. And then she fell into one of her silences. Now, I got used to her silences. That seemed to last an absolute age. It was a part of them, and I've joined in with it as well. On the bus to Newcastle, my granny's hat started to weep pink dye into her grey hair. And again, with hope in her voice, she said, I'm that excited. This journey all the way to Ovenjum, it'll be gone just like that. Just you wait and see. And as we drove and floated through Gateshead, the bus was churning up the curbside puddles into huge waterfalls, but luckily there was nobody daft, well, apart from us three, to be out on such a terrible day as this. As we left the warmth and comfort of the bus, we had to turn our collars up against the rain. I thought the birds had more sense than us, because they were flapping to find some kind of shelter, and the water was foaming and bubbling from out of the drains. And it was then that Granny saw a tiny speck of blue in the distance. And she said, look, it's clearing up. It's only a shower. You'll see, we'll be dry in no time. Granda gave us a litany of watery images. The bloody ducks have got umbrellas. They're wearing wellies. Wellies and umbrellas. Never bloody stop, woman. Even the fishes will be drowning in them. But Granda was caught short by one of Granny's angry looks. The trek from Warswick Street Station up to Newcastle Central Station was memorable. Granda was sulking 10 yards ahead of us while we shuffled on and we couldn't raise our heads in the torrential rain. But the hat was now at a 90-degree angle on the top of her head, and where it had moved, it left a semicircle of pink that looked a bit like a halo, a badly placed, badly drawn halo on the top of her head. People could notice it, and Granny was getting agitated, and she spat at Granda's back. I know you don't want to be here. Make an effort. so selfish. Granda stopped, pulled his hat further down. I wish I was a shellfish. I've got to tell you, this is bloody ridiculous. You look like a clown, and the bairn looks like an orphan in the storm. I wasn't quite sure why I looked like an orphan in the storm, but I didn't think that this was the time to ask. I can tell you that the pillars of Newcastle Central train station were a welcome sight. Everyone was huddling for shelter behind them, like seaside holiday makers settling into their seaside chalets. Trains wheezed, leaning wearily into platforms before thudding and thundering into life. God tries all over. It was nearly an hour before our train was due to arrive, because we even had poetic trains. Granny sat and looked around, smiled and said, "Eee, it's nice here, isn't it?" Granda looked and said, "Nicer than where?" Well, when the waitress came, she gave an over-exuberant smile. "Oh yes, we are going on a holiday to visit my family. We're going all of the way to Ovenham in a caravan. And yes, pity about the weather and all." "And before you start," she turned to Granda, "his name's not Noah neither." Granda drank his tea, pulled a face, and moaned. And Grandma remembered a time before this time. This is something I love to sort out. Where did the man of my dreams go? So gentle and kind, so easy and slow. Once I was the key to your heart, leaving strangers too long to break apart. If you took my hand and held it close, our two hearts would beat as one. Your touch is a memory from so long ago. Where did that young man go? When I straighten your tie, you push me away. Once the touch of my hand, you beg me to stay. My heart would raise, your hand at the door. Now I dread your return. Where did that love go? You could just say one sweet word, it would smash that door down. Your bitter words cut to my soul. When did we let our love go? Where did that wild, young bright-eyed girl go? All my hopes and my schemes melted like snow. When you closed the door, I gave up and gave like your love? Where did the man of my dreams go? Well, that's the end of the first half. Thank you very much.
Wow.
No, thank you very much indeed for coming along. That's
It's
great.
an amazing story. Keep wanting more.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, there's more of the caravan trip, which falls into complete slapstick.
Yeah.
It involves a lot of cow manure. Yeah.
It's not any good.